What if you were suddenly dropped into the heart of World War II, rifle in hand, and had to choose just one weapon to carry into the chaos? Would you trust the cold precision of a German bolt action, the thunder of a Soviet submachine gun, or would you bet your life on American firepower and a heavy 45 in your holster? Across the decades, some weapons from that brutal era have not only survived, they've thrived. They're not rusting relics locked behind glass, but living legends that still tear through targets at the range today, just as they did on the battlefield. These aren't museum pieces. They're still kicking, still loud, still lethal. In this video, we're diving into the 10 War World II firearms that refuse to fade. In Part 1, it's all about the giants, the United States, Germany, and the Soviet Union, and the guns that helped shape the outcome of the war. Let's begin with the country that mass-produced not only tanks and aircraft, but also some of the most iconic firearms ever carried into war, the United States. The M1 Garand wasn't just revolutionary for its time, it's still a powerhouse at the range. Chambered in .30-06, this semi-automatic rifle gave American infantry a huge edge over enemies still relying on bolt actions. Each shot delivers a satisfying thump, and the recoil, while firm, feels rhythmic rather than punishing. But it's the sound that makes the Garand unforgettable. That metallic ping when the end-block clip ejects. It's music to a War World II enthusiast's ears. Even now in 2025, Garand-specific competitions like the CMP's John C. Garand match continue to draw hundreds of marksmen across the U.S. every year. These rifles aren't just surviving, they're thriving, maintained and fired by both veterans and a new generation of collectors. Out to 300 meters, the Garand holds tight groups. It's heavier than modern rifles, sure, but its balance and follow-up speed still impress. Many shooters say it feels alive, like it wants to shoot. And when it does, it reminds you why Patton called it the greatest battle implement ever devised. The Garand was the hammer, the Thompson was the fist, nicknamed the Tommy gun. This .45 ACP submachine gun was built for trench clearing, room-sweeping chaos. On the range, it feels like a cross between a power tool and a bulldozer. The recoil isn't sharp, it's heavy. Each burst pushes you back just enough to respect it. While original models are tightly regulated, semi-auto reproductions and demilitarized conversions are increasingly common at civilian ranges. Some modern SMG matches even include War World II-themed side stages where Thompson is king. It might be heavy and old school, but it still holds its ground and eats steel plates for breakfast. Whether you're firing the compensated M1928 or the simplified M1A1, this gun is all business. Its deep thump and raw force are unforgettable. Then there's the sidearm that outlived the war, the Cold War, and just about everything else. The M1911, chambered in .45 ACP, is not subtle. Its recoil is a steady shove. Its slide action is all business, and its grip fits your hand like it was meant to be there. At the range, you'll still find dozens of 1911s being holstered for IDPA, USPSA, or bullseye matches. Many of them are modern, yes, but there's always one shooter running a wartime Remington Rand or Ithaca and still scoring tight groups at 15 yards. It's a platform that simply won't die. Its stopping power became legendary in the Pacific, and many shooters today still choose it for the same reason. When you pull the trigger, it matters. From the open plains of Europe to the island jungles of the Pacific, American weapons were built to endure. But across the front lines stood German craftsmanship, cold, refined, and designed to dominate through sheer mechanical advantage. German guns from World War II weren't just functional, they were mechanical artistry. At the range today, they still captivate for their precision and distinctive feel. The Kar98k is a bolt-action rifle that rewards discipline, smooth, reliable, and deadly accurate. It was Germany's standard infantry weapon, chambered in .792 by 57 mm. The recoil has a bite, but nothing unmanageable. When you cycle the bolt, it locks forward with mechanical confidence. You feel every ounce of German engineering in your hands. In civilian shooting clubs across Europe, particularly in Germany and Austria, licensed collectors regularly bring these rifles to vintage rifle matches. They're not only legal, they're celebrated. Compared to a Garand, It's slower, but more deliberate. You aim, you breathe, and you deliver. Each shot is intentional and still devastatingly accurate. This 9mm submachine gun is often misunderstood. People expect it to kick harder than it does, but in reality, the MP40 is smooth, stable, and remarkably tame. The folding stock makes it compact, and the open bolt design keeps it cool under pressure. In private ranges in Nevada, Texas, and parts of Eastern Europe, MP40s, both original and replica, are staples of World War II firearm experiences. They remain one of the most requested firearms at rental ranges focused on historical weapons. It's not flashy, it's not loud, it's just effective, which, honestly, makes it even more dangerous. Now we come to the game changer, the Sturmgewehr 44. This was the first true assault rifle, bridging the gap between rifles and SMGs, chambered in the intermediate 7.92 by 33 Kurtz. It brought controllable full auto fire to the infantryman without the shoulder-thumping recoil of a full-power round. Shooting one today is rare, but unforgettable. Some military collectors and reenactment clubs, especially in the Czech Republic and Poland, still field-working examples in live-fire demonstrations. The rifle handles with surprising modernity. Each pull of the trigger echoes the DNA of the AK-47 and AR-15. That's no exaggeration. This is where it all began. If the STG-44 was ahead of its time, the MG-42 was terrifyingly current. This belt-fed machine gun fired at nearly 1,200 rounds per minute, faster than almost anything else of its era. At the range, its sustained fire doesn't just echo, it rips through the air. To this day, the MG-42's mechanical legacy lives on in the German MG3. But for collectors and historical firearm events, original MG-42s, where legal, still run full belts in carefully controlled range environments. What is the experience of firing it like? Loud, violent, precise. With proper handling, barrel changes, and support, this beast still outperforms many of its modern counterparts in raw suppressive firepower. It isn't just a museum piece, it's a machine built to run, and it still does. Now we shift our focus to the Eastern Front, where durability and numbers defined Soviet firepower. While the Germans built intricate machines, the Soviets built workhorses. The PPSh-41 is just that, a rugged, high-capacity submachine gun that never cared about mud, blood, or weather. Chambered in 7.62 by 25. Tokarev and firing over 900 rounds per minute. It's still an icon on the range today, from Ukraine to parts of Finland and even the western U.S. Military surplus collectors proudly bring PPSh-41s to World II shoots and reenactments. Whether drum-fed or stick-magged, they run fast and reliably. Modern ammo is still available, and aftermarket parts help keep the classics going strong. There's nothing subtle about the PPSh, the noise, the speed, the aesthetic. It's chaos in wood and steel. Yet, even now, 80 years later, it still lays down fire like it's day one of Stalingrad. In Part 1, we saw the firepower of the major players, the United States, Germany, and the Soviet Union. But not all legends come from superpowers. Some guns earned their place not by overwhelming numbers, but by outperforming expectations. In this part, we'll focus on the underdogs, the weapons built by Britain and its covert forces. There are fewer of them on this list, but they hit just as hard, and in some cases, more quietly than anything else on the battlefield. If you're a fan of old-school precision, there's something poetic about shooting a Lee Enfield. While the Americans had the Garand and the Germans had the Kar98k, British soldiers marched into war with a bolt-action rifle that could outrun both, not in technology, but in speed. You don't have to take my word for it. Look up footage from the Mad Minute, the famous British Army test, where soldiers fired 15 to 20 aimed shots in 60 seconds with a bolt-action rifle. It wasn't just possible with the Lee Enfield, it was expected. That buttery smooth bolt and 10-round magazine made it one of the fastest manual action rifles in the war. And today, You'll still find Lee Enfields at military surplus matches and vintage rifle competitions, especially in the UK, Canada, Australia, and even civilian ranges in the US. Collectors praise its craftsmanship. Shooters love its consistency. I've seen folks in their 20s shoot it for the first time and instantly want to hunt one down for themselves. At 100, 200 yards, it prints groups that put newer rifles to shame. And once you feel that bolt glide back and forth like it's oiled glass, you start to understand why this rifle is still on firing lines in 2025. Now for something completely different. A gun so quiet, you wonder if it's even working. The Welrod isn't flashy. It doesn't bark. It whispers. And that's exactly what it was built to do. Developed by Britain's Special Operations Executive, the Welrod was a suppressed pistol designed for clandestine use, assassinations, sabotage, and taking out sentries without anyone hearing it. Its bolt-action operation is bizarre at first glance, and it looks more like plumbing than a weapon. But that's part of the genius. It was built to be disposable, deniable, and deadly. Very few original Welrods still exist in firing condition, but semi-functional replicas and range-legal reproductions are popping up in niche collector circles, in private suppressor events, or vintage firearms exhibitions, especially in the UK and select US states. The Welrod remains a conversation piece that still fires. Firing one is surreal. The loudest sound isn't the shot, it's the action cycling manually. There's no muzzle flash, no sharp crack, just a dull, wet thump, and the target falls. No other War World II-era firearm delivers silence with that much intensity. And despite its rarity, the Welrod still finds itself featured in silent shooting demos and historical arms videos, where its ghost-like presence captures everyone's attention. If the Lee Enfield was the backbone of British infantry, the Bren was its thunder. Based on a Czech design and perfected by British engineers, the Bren light machine gun delivered dependable automatic fire from a top-mounted magazine, and it did so with style and stability. Firing from the prone position, the Bren is a remarkably well-behaved weapon. The bipod absorbs most of the recoil, and the slow, deliberate rate of fire, around 500 rounds per minute, makes each burst controllable and surprisingly precise. At the range, you notice immediately, this isn't a spray-and-pray gun. It's a laser beam with a 30-round magazine. In 2025, original and semi-auto Bren guns are still fielded at historical live-fire events in the UK, Canada, and parts of the US. Some are museum-owned but range-tested regularly. Others live in private collections. Wherever they appear, spectators pause. There's something mesmerizing about that top-fed magazine rocking with each shot, and that long barrel punching out rounds with elegant, rhythmic force. The Bren was built to last, and it still proves it today. Whether in the mud of Normandy or the gravel of a modern shooting bay, it just keeps running, with authority. Every shot fired from a World War II firearm today carries more than just lead. It carries legacy. The weight of history isn't only in museums or documentaries. It's in the trigger pull, the recoil, the sound that echoes across a gravel range on a Saturday morning. These weapons, whether forged for empire or engineered in secrecy, were built to survive the hardest days of the 20th century, and somehow, they still thrive in the 21st. Their presence on the firing line is no accident. It's a reminder that craftsmanship, function, and raw mechanical honesty never really go out of style. If one of these guns stood out to you, or you've had a chance to fire one yourself, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop them in the comments. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive into the living legends of War World II. Until next time, keep learning, keep shooting, and I'll see you downrange.